This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rangers Assessment right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McKay. It's a pleasure as always to be your host. We are going to discuss the Dumbarton Scottish Cup tie where the pitch was just as bad as the weather, so we've got an entertaining journey for Scottish football. We'll talk about some signings, including one very close to being announced, and we'll preview Hibs on Wednesday night. So we will have got quite a busy show tonight. I've got an all-star panel to talk to as well. Always a pleasure to be joined by, first of all, Scott McKay.
How you doing, Scott? Cheers for having me on again, mate.
Always a pleasure, mate, and delighted to be joined by Robert Clark.
Listen, happy to be on again. Thanks for the invite and a bit of company tonight. It's usually just me and you, so it'd be nice to shoot the mire with another face. Brilliant.
Well, another person called Scott, so we'll go with that. But Scott, in terms of kind of the past week or so, transfer news, there's not been a lot until this morning where Twitter went into a bit of a spin. Obviously, the game last night with the friendly against Copenhagen, it's been fairly active without being too busy, I would say.
Aye. It's been a bit depressing at times, right enough, not having any decent rumours to go off, Scott, to be honest with you. This Diomande thing this morning's come out of nowhere. Which shows you Rangers are keeping their cards close to their chest.
Yeah, I think that's I always think that's a good thing. See, when you hear nothing about a transfer and then out of the blue, it's just very, very close. There's reports from Denmark saying that it's pretty much done. I like that. I prefer that because you know that there's, as Scott says, cards have been kept close to their chest and a bit of scouting's going on. That's what I like.
Listen, we've been missing scouting for a number of years, really. Listen, people have been getting a bit antsy that we've not made any moves early doors, but we are 20 days in the window. But no clubs have. You usually find that clubs will leave their business, especially in this window, late. It's a tricky window, as we know. I dare say in the next 10 days we will get another couple in that we're hoping for. So this will be the start of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a bit of, we've got a bit of info on Diomande that we'll talk about later on, but we'll start with the game on Saturday night. Rangers visited Dumbarton. There was obviously a bit of worry that the game wouldn't take place, but we got it in the end. 4-1 victory, Scott. Overall, before we kind of get deep into it, it was exactly what we wanted, just a routine victory. The pitch was a bit of a disgrace, but that's Scottish football for you. But overall, no injuries, fairly happy.
Aye, it's job done and we're through, innit? That's all that really matters. I think he pictured an awful lot today with Dessers missing them chances. I think there's quite a few that have bobbled up in front of the guy. Don't get me wrong, I'm still not his biggest supporter, but I'll make allowances for him with that pitch. It was horrible conditions, so it's job done and up the road as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully we can get a home draw in the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. The draw will probably getting drawn about an hour after we record this, so again we missed the boat. But Robert, in terms of kind of team line-up, it was as close to full strength as Rangers can probably get at the moment. Obviously, we heard just before the game that Abdallah Sima is on his way back from African Cup of Nations duty with a potential injury. We don't know if it's a long-term injury, but again, this injury bug, even when they're not playing for Rangers, they pick up knocks, and it's kind of sums up the lot. Sima, you would say, probably in terms of a talisman, with the exception of Tavernier, is probably as close to important as you can get. He's going to be a big miss, no matter how long he's out for.
Oh, listen, it was a big miss going away to AFCON. To have him come back and be out for any length of time is going to be huge. In terms of the team lineup, and goal, the only real change, but I think Fleet come on, showed the competition the respect it deserved. I agreed with John Lundstrom sort of in his post match that the only thing you can really praise is the attitude was spot on. They went there, they get the job done. It's one of the games, isn't it, where you're not hiding for nothing, because if you lose, you get heavy stick, and if you win, it's no pats in the back. It's just, as Scott was saying there on the next one. So as I say, Lundstrom was spot on. The attitude was great. Chances were missed. Did players really take the chance they were given, i.e. Matondo? I'm not sure. It's hard to judge against that level of opposition on that surface as well. So time will tell as we go into the next game and obviously the weekend as well.
Scott, we'll touch on Cyril Dessers here because I think this was a perfect example of what he can do. There's times, especially with his goal, he can get into the right positions, he can make his own chances, but there's sometimes where you think, has he ever seen a football before? Does he know where the goal is? And I think that's kind of where we're at with Dessers just now. There's an article going up in the channel later this week from Scott Young about our Rangers fans too harsh on Cyril Dessers. Now, I find it very, very... I've got mixed reactions to that, because I think in terms of a striker that Rangers need, I think it's no secret that I think we've been on this podcast, you especially have been saying about the demand for Shankland, and a Shankland type player who can finish chances and get on the end of things. And I think Dessers will do that for you an odd time, but he's not going to do it. Dessers, with the exception of the goal in Betis, every goal he's scored has been fairly easy. Is that harsh, or is that... I just think you need to put it on a plate for him, or he's the sort of... It reminds me a bit of Joe Linton. I know that's quite a silly comparison, but he can sort of look at his best when he's coming back in. He's not your guy who's going to get you 30 goals, but he is a contributor.
He is a contributor, right? He's just, in my opinion, he's not a very good contributor. He's a fringe player to me. I don't think he should be anywhere near the Rangers starting 11. He's not the standard that's required. What I will say is the improvement in his game is there's work rate. At the beginning of the season, there wasn't that. He wasn't moving defenders. He wasn't running the channels. Now, see your worst version, Alfredo Morelos. That's the least you got off Alfredo. The least. It was always working. Dessers wasn't doing that at the beginning of the season. Well, that's a confidence thing. I don't know, but to me, it's just doing your job. I mean, you're especially being a number 9 for Rangers. He's got one of the best jerseys that we've all wanted for as a support. That's your dream, innit? But no, to me, there needs to be. I know there's a signing coming in and stuff like that, and things are starting to move on. But he needs to go out and strengthen up top. And Dessers, to me, isn't the guy for the job. He's obviously going to be here till at least the end of the season, so squad player, fine. But going forward, if we don't sign a striker in the next, before Wednesday, I would like to see Silva getting played through the middle.
Robert, I think this is one of the problems that you have when you spend as much as Rangers, Michael Beale did on a player like Dessers, that for 4 million, 4.5, whatever it was, he has to be playing. But he's had so many chances. I think with Dessers could get 15, 20 goals this season, but his chance conversion, I looked at his chance conversion today, I think it's 1 in 4. Like, clear chances. Well, that's huge. I mean, that's not for £4.5 million. Rangers need a player at least double that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that they're going to score every time. That's strikers aren't going to be at Rangers, but he gets so many chances, and to be, I mean, the game against Hertha Berlin's a perfect example. Rangers were toothless up front, and I know it's a friendly. I know the tempo wasn't as high. You could argue the pitch was similar to what it was on Saturday, but Rangers just don't have that poacher finisher. They haven't had it. Scott made a point in the article the other day. Rangers haven't had a 20-goal a season finisher since Martin Waghorn. And Martin Waghorn wasn't a clinical goal scorer. So it shows you this real gap that's been there for how long?
Well, listen, just on the sort of flip side, maybe play devil's advocate in this conversation. That's him now scored in every competition. So he scored in obviously League, the League Cup, and to be fair to him, he's maybe in a position where he has to play. You know, Danilo's obviously got the injury as well, so I think he knows that he's going to start. Whether Silva's the answer, I kind of seen Silva for Wolves doing his best stuff off the left hand side. I had that sort of vision that when Sima goes to AFCON, would see Silva off the left, maybe Dessers up front. But to go into sort of fantasy land, Lawrence Shankland is the answer to this problem. And now, whether it's fan talk or because I've not heard anything for the club or the manager, we saw a wee bit where Philip Collins sort of grabbed him I think it was at Tynecastle, and a wee word with him after the game, but that was just a bit sort of old ties for Belgium, or what we can all dream, can't we? But Lawrence Shankland is a natural finisher, whereas Cyril Dessers isn't, and that's the thing, a point you were sort of alluding to in terms of his chance conversion. We know Lawrence can do it in the Premiership as well, so it's, the manager must know that we need a striker. It's whether we've got the funds to go and get one. That's the big question. All this talk about moving Ridvan on, whether that's going to then have a domino effect on our transfer dealings this window, will be yet to be seen.
I think moving on to kind of Ridvan's a good point, Scott, because again he comes into the side and you're thinking what we've been thinking all January. I mean, it was reported it was close to it was going to, I think it was Hellas Verona. It's went quiet. Galatasaray seemed to be making kind of moves for him as well. But right now, in terms of, I mean, Barisic came back in the second half, and I thought Barisic was atrocious. But that's me naturally just having that feeling for Borna. But I think Ridvan the past few weeks has come onto a game now. I would be hesitant at this point unless you know you're getting somebody in who's going to be that upgrade on Yilmaz and the type of left back that Rangers need long term. I wouldn't be moving Ridvan on.
I don't know. I think, to me, you can look at it in two ways. You can either sell him and get your money back just now, or you keep him. I think Ridvan's finally arrived. I think he's up to speed with the physicality of Scottish football now. I don't think it's going to let him down his height, but that's something that you can't fix. I like him. He's just a dynamic fullback. Scott, he offers so much going forward. Like his role kind of changed in recent weeks as well, where he's kind of playing a wee bit more inside the park instead of running the byline. And the type of passes and stuff he's playing, like, it's really good. And to me, if we need to sell before we buy, like, there's obviously going to be a transfer fee paid for this boy who's coming in. So to me, that's a lot. It's not true. I obviously believe there will be some sort of funds there for a striker. But back to Ridvan, his value's not going to decrease any between now and the summer. I'm quite happy with him as a first choice left back, getting a run of games. I think in the summer you could potentially be looking at this boy as the one to kickstart your trading model. I think his value is only going to go up if he can keep his form and his fitness. In terms of Barisic, I think Dumbarton put a tweet out with a clip of the wingers at Aussie. I think he skinned him 5 times or something like that in this video clip. Borna, there's been rumours, there's a guy I follow on Twitter, Joe Tiffany, I think he's called. There's been rumours that Leeds are interested in them and Borna and taking them. They can come and have him as far as I'm concerned. I'd quite happily go with Ridvan and Sterling. I think Sterling could fill in at left back until the end of the season.
Robert, the argument to that is, and it was something Clement brought up in his press conference, and I totally agree with Scott. I mean, I've made it very clear. I've made it very clear for nearly 2 years. Borna Barisic should not be playing for Rangers anymore. But the other side you've got is Clement made it clear in his press conference that he's not happy the way the contract situation is. And again, we've all been screaming at that for the rooftops last season when 2 of your biggest assets and 2 of your biggest contributors go out the door for nothing when you've turned down bids in the past and you've spent £7 million on one. So there is this flip side to that where you're not going to get much for Borna and he's there till the end of the season, or do you just kind of cash in now, go where Ridvan, as Scott says? Because I think it's very tough, and I've said that a lot. I've said it ever since the January window came in. It's very, very tough to do any sort of real changes to a squad in the January window. Rangers shouldn't be in the position they're in, but that is the position they're in at the moment. That's the left back situation is a problem, and I've thought about it because Borna is done, but I just don't. I think Borna offensively does things that Ridvan doesn't do, and I think as long as Ridvan's in the team, you're losing that. Obviously, Ridvan's not as good a crosser. Borna still had that in his game, so you do need to find this hybrid. I think I just don't know. I think the left back position is a real problem. It needs to be fixed before the end of January.
100%. I mean, with Ridvan, there's a noise that it's him asking for a move as well. Now, I don't see that in his performances. I thought he was really good in the first 45 against Copenhagen, and I thought, you know, he was good again last night. For a guy so small, he's got a massive heart. Now, if you're wanting away for a football club, you know, you wouldn't really be putting in them sort of shifts. I don't see anyway. But as you say, left back is a problem area. Borna Barisic, I don't see getting a new deal. There's been links to this Dutch fella Small, is it? That name seems to be getting bandied about. So I think the manager knows we need to get somebody in. I don't go with the notion that I'd be happy with Sterling and Ridvan for the sheer fact that I don't think we've seen enough of Sterling on the left side. And also, since he's went into this midfield, he's been a bit of a revelation. That's allowed him to bust into the Rangers team. So I'd rather see him stick in there if he can. I think he's got the athleticism to to give us something in the middle of the park that we've not got elsewhere. So I don't really go with that. Whether you say, well, Adam Devine can play in there as well. We saw him covered there under Michael Beale for Bournemouth. So it's one of them. If you can get the money for Ridvan, I think they're going to take it, because he's going to need to use it to bring some of the faces in. But if he leaves him, I don't see him leaving himself short, is what I mean. So maybe that's why the move to Hellas Verona is not going through, or anyone else at the moment. So it's one that I think will play out to the very last day of this window.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things of the weekend, Scott, in sport was not Luke Littler winning the Bahrain Masters at 16 years old. Rangers scored from an in-swinging corner.
Aye, that Todd Cantwell took.
Yeah.
A different corner taker as well. It was an actual set-piece routine, Scott. That's the happiest thing that's happened to me in 2024 so far.
Yeah, and I get that obviously the manager has a preference for outswingers, and you can understand that, but I think that's a thing. I think that's why sometimes we can get bored, because we know, see when Rangers take a corner and it's not just been under Clermont, you kind of know how it goes. And see that yesterday, you were just watching that thinking, that felt a bit different.
Aye, 100%. See the physicality we've got in that box as well. We should be scoring more for corners. Looking at guys like Goldson can be a threat. Suter, obviously, he was the one that knocked it on for Lundstrom. Lundstrom's another one. Dessers, I've yet to see him use that big frame for a corner. So we've got the tools to do it. We just need to go out and execute it, Scott. It was good to see him scoring for a corner, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come in the future. Because set pieces, it could be massive for us. Already seen with Tavs from a free kick. He's got a good delivery. Seen it for Tesser's goal as well. So you've got the tools there. You just need to go make it work, basically.
Yeah. Robert, I think I was really, I know it's Dumbarton away, and I know we can read a lot into performances of certain players and things like that, but I thought yesterday was a good example. Raskin, I thought, was all over the park. I thought his passing range was very good. Thought he was a bit more kind of eager to get forward and get on the end of chances and things like that. I think with Raskin, I've said that I think Raskin is the next big sell, and I've said that I think he is, but I think he needs to be. I think the midfield does need to be suited to him, and if he can stay fit second half of the season, I think if he builds on performances like that, I think Rangers have got a massive player.
Well, as you say there, it was really good for him to get 55, 60 minutes into his legs. You know, he's come back from that injury. And again, as you say, a player with massive potential. I kind of felt like at the start of the season, he looked very, very frustrated. I know we spoke about Michael Beale not really passing on instruction well to players, but Raskin, for one, didn't seem to know what was happening in front of him. And that you could see a frustration in his game, and maybe it tailed off a little bit, because, again, the last 6 months, the last season, he was a real fan's favourite. Everyone took to him so quickly. So he's going to be important, as you say, with another midfielder coming in as well, but brings a bit of competition. And we're maybe not then relying so much on, Lundstrom playing in every match, who's been, I think, probably the most improved player under Clermont. I thought he was really good yesterday as well. So we'll see how it goes in the middle of the park. But I think we're okay there. It's other areas we're all looking slightly thin. We mentioned the left-hand side. I think out wide we could be an issue as well. Seamus going to be out for a long period. And then we've got the striking problem as well. But I mean, just to touch on that corner if I can, I thought Suter's assist is great. I think he means that. I don't think he's trying to shoot there. I think he is trying to flick onto the back post, knowing somebody's going to be there, and strangely it's John Lewis from a header, which you don't really think of. So no, delighted with the ingenuity and something different, as you say. It did feel a wee bit different.
Scott, and touching on, like, as you say, players kind of taking their chances. Matondo, I think we've been through this a lot with Matondo, that the pace is there, sometimes the directness is there, but sometimes it's just his final ball can really just let him down. And I thought yesterday was a good example. Maybe 4 or 5 times you're thinking, what are you doing there? And I think he does have something off the left-hand side that right now I don't think any Rangers player has in terms of his directness, but I just think sometimes his final ball will just hold him back. And if he's going to be a player like Scott Wright's a good example. I don't think Scott Wright's the best player in that Rangers side, but he's capable of. He comes up his final ball, his final chance is usually pretty good. Whereas I think Matondo it sometimes holds him back.
I think that's something a manager will be taking Matondo aside and working with him on a training pitch. I think that's really the only way to fix it, to be brutally honest with you. The guy needs minutes. There's a a position open, the left-hand side, whether it's going to be filled by Silva or Matondo is yet to be seen. But I look back to when I seen him score against Copenhagen, the way he took his goal, he took it really, really well, and I thought he has got it in him. He's just not got that consistency in his game yet. Now, whether that's Rangers standard or not, that's completely up for debate whether he's good enough. But I think it does have the capability. I think it could play similar to the way Seema did in terms of getting these running across the defence and getting into the box to convert chances. But as you say, the problem with Matondo is it's his finishing. His finishing's a hit and a miss. It's his decision, his final third that kind of lets him down. I would quite like to see what the manager can do with a run of games. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's gave himself a chance at the start of the season before the injury, and it's just a case of waiting and seeing how it goes, Scott.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. Robert, I think in terms of obviously out wide, I think it's a massive issue. It was a massive issue in the summer. Let's not kid ourselves here. But when you've got Seema obviously missing McCausland, I think I've been really impressed with McCausland, but I think he's at a point where you play a certain amount of games as a typical young player, you can find that inconsistency, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is a nature of kind of coming through as a young player. We know that, but I just think out wide it's so threadbare, even if everybody's fully fit, because I'm looking at that in terms of width, Rangers don't have a lot.
Well, listen, this came again for Michael Beale. It's a problem the manager's inherited because he was trying to play so narrow to start with. Didn't look like we're going to play with any width, and then it's obviously developed that we had to, and we've tried to put players in there that aren't really of the level to be starting every week for Rangers. Ross McCausland is sort of came out of nowhere. You know, everyone was looking, 6-7 weeks ago at the likes of Bailey Rice to be the one for the academy to break through, and it's McCausland who's come along quietly and taking his chance. As you say, I do think he's maybe not petered out, that's probably the wrong term, but he's took a dip in form slightly. The only thing, yesterday he sort of forced Stephen Craig in to finally say something nice about a Rangers player, because he was sort of praising the fact that he can go on and do some good things for Northern Ireland. But just to see what Scott was saying there, I think he is. Ravi Matondo's going to have to get a run of games now because we've got no other option. He's played them against Copenhagen. He's played them against there at the weekend against Dumbarton. So I think he is going to play on that left hand side until we get Seema back in. And this really is Rabi's last chance, because I think at the end of last season we said similar conversations. I didn't think we'd be having the score. I thought we might have cashed in on him. He's still 23, and at that age he needs to be finding another level. He needs to be trying to push on and make these don't see it. I think there's something missing there, whether it is that clinical edge, whether it maybe is the mentality of playing for Rangers. Something's just not quite clicking for him. But I think we're going to be stuck with him for the end of the season, and we're going to need to utilise him, because as you say, we seem to be getting hammered with injuries, whether it's they're playing for Rangers or they're playing with the international club. So Rabi's going to be one that I think we'll be holding on to until the summer.
Scott, in terms of Dumbarton had a couple of chances, and I thought Robbie McCrory for the most part was fine. But what we see with games like this, and I think it is a bit of an arrogance that big clubs have, is that we think any kind of lower league team that gets a chance, they should be. Do you know what I mean? How are they getting a chance? But Rangers are not good at the back. We've been through this so many times. Rangers can give away chances stupidly, and what you need at that point, you need a defence that's capable. And I think going into Wednesday night, and I know we'll touch on it with the Hibs game, I think Goldson is a massive blow. I think Goldson not being there at all just shows that up. And I know you're gonna say something on Tuesday in in a written piece about Goldson. What is it about that defence that hasn't been fixed? Because we're still in most cases kind of sitting with the same problems that we had 2 years ago.
Where do you start with, really? You start off with your full-backs in terms of, well, they're playing sort of is inverted, or well, they're playing sort of out in the line, and then it's your midfield. I think for Coman's come in, I think Lundstrom's done that job really, really well. He's worthy of a new contract now in my eyes. In terms of defence, Connor Goldson's never had as I wrote in that article for you, he's not a long-term centre back partner. I don't think Connor Goldson's a great defender. he's a great leader, if you know what I mean. I think he's a complete, he's a must to start every week, but it's a wonder that we've actually kept the amount of clean sheets that we have, and I think that's a lot to do with making a change in goal. The Butland coming in, I think that's gave the centre backs and the defence a sense of security they never had under McGregor. I think that's a fair enough assessment. In terms of fixing it, I'm just going to come right out and say it. You've got a guy doing it at Nottingham Forest. It's a free transfer at the end of the season. I think you go and you get Scott McKenna. Not only do I think it's Scott McKenna on a parring with the ability that Goldson's got, I think with his injury record and things like that too, I think that he brings a balance. He's not a ball playing defender at all. He's just going to kick up the park, but that's all he needs to do is just defend, do his job. Been saying it for summer that not getting a centre back in was going to cost Bailey's job, and ultimately it was that among other things that cost Michael Bailey's job. But I would definitely like to see us going out in this win, don't bring in another centre back, because nights like Wednesday when we've not got Goldson, you're probably looking at Suter and Balogun, I would imagine.
Maybe, yeah.
And thankfully we did bring Balogun in the summer, because he's turned out to be stalwart for us at the back. So you're probably going Suter and Balogun on Wednesday night, and I think that's enough to kind of get you through. But it shows the lack of depth in the position. Ben Davies is away injured again. Suter's not got the best injury record, so that leaves you with Goldson and Balogun. And if you've not got Suter fit, then who plays on Wednesday night? I mean, are you bringing John Leafeco in? I still think we're a wee bit light. I think Ben Davies needs to go back down south. Whether that's you take a hit in terms of the fee, I think you would maybe get 1.5 million for Ben Davies. I think he needs to go back down south and play his trade down there. And I think you need to get somebody in that's going to be a long-term answer to that left side of defence.
Robert, I think this is a problem that should have been addressed in the summer. I know it's a game against Dumbarton and we need to look at it in retrospect, but when you look at the centre-back position, as Scott rightly points out, you've got John Suter, who is, I think John Suter's fine in terms of a squad player, but he can pick up injuries. I don't think Ben Davies is the answer. I think Leon Balogun is there as a kind of, not even a stopgap, just there to fill a hole. Goldson is your only real kind of centre back, and I think Scott's bang on what he says. Not having a partner there is a problem. In long term, I think whether you fix it in January, it might not be January, but I think in the summer, I think two at least need to come in. Two centre backs at least need to come, and you need to, as we're seeing with Diomande, there's obviously a bit of an improvement in how the trading works. It needs to be young players that you can sell on, because right at this moment in time, Rangers don't have centre backs where you can. I think Rangers' defence is going to cost them the league.
Oh, I hope you're wrong. Certainly, first and foremost, Conor Goldson, I don't think's hit the heights since he's come back for that injury. You know, whether he was rushed back pre-season is another question only he can answer. And then you say, well, we've had this problem for 2 years. Well, the personnel really hasn't changed for 2 years.
Exactly.
Tavernier, Goldson, Balogun, Barisic. You're still using the same guys that you used, you know, under Gerrard at the end of his term. So that's the answer to that question. Ben Davies has come in. He didn't really hit the ground running. He had a bit of a partnership with John Suter. They had a nightmare at Parkhead. And then he's had some personal issues, I believe, with family, which is fair enough. But even at that, I don't think he's settled in to the way we thought he would, which reverts you back to, you know, Goldson and Balogun. And Balogun has stepped up, to be fair to him. I know he had a bit of a moment up at Pittodrie. I thought it was really good when he came in at Dens Park on that night. And he's proved to be the one that you can rely on next to Conor Goldson, because that's what it is. It's Conor Goldson and another. So as you say, whether it comes to the summer and you do look to whether you're going to give Balogun a new deal, move Ben Davies on. John Suter, I think, I'm going to take Paul Pelter's this, but I think he's flattered to deceive. I think he was coming to Rangers on the back of doing really, really well at Hearts. You know, pushed into the Scotland squad, he had that goal against Denmark for his country, and then I don't think we've seen the best of him. I really don't, and I think there's more to come from him. And I think he needs to step up and make that position his own. He can't be happy with being in and out, in and out, in and out. He wants to be starting as well, so I think he's got a lot to do and a lot to fight for the jersey between now and the end of the season.
Scott, we saw some exciting things at the end of the game. I thought Fabio Silva, decent touches. I think Silva will be quite a good player long term for, well, at least until the end of the season. Thought Lawrence was pretty good when he came in as well. There are wee highlights to take for that game, but again, the worry is Lawrence, Jack. Can you keep them fit? Silva, is he going to play in his natural position? But I think we can take the positives and see that these players are going to come in, and they could be important if they keep if they're able to, if they're suited and able to stay fit.
100%, Scott, 100%. In terms of Jack, I think Ryan Jack's finished at Rangers. I don't think he gets another deal coming summer. If he does get another deal, it's pending on whether he's going to get up his international career or not. I think that's going to be a conversation that the manager needs to have with him. Tom Lawrence, guy was barely injured before he came to Rangers, and he's come in, took one bad injury, and then his body's broke down on him twice since he's come back. I think for the outlay and the wages you're paying these guys, I think you need to move them on somehow in the summer. You need to be able to free up the wage. Obviously, with Kamar Roof leaving as well, that's going to be another striking spot. So another reason we need a striker in this window. We're still light. We're still really, really light. I know the injury situation looks a bit better, but you're on the edge of your seat watching Rangers when some of these guys play, because you're just wondering who's going to get injured next. Is Lawrence going to break down next? What's going to happen with Ryan Jack? I mean, that was an 11-minute cameo he had for Scotland, and he's been out for about 3-4 weeks. Do you know what I mean? He's been out for a long time, and I think that as the direct replacement for Ryan Jack in the summer's called Connor Barron at Aberdeen, I think you just go and get a boy, sign him that pre-contract, and it's just a straight swap. But hopefully, with the manager getting the players away on the winter break, he's managed to get some fitness in the legs. It's good to see them getting some minutes against Dumbarton. I was a wee bit curious as to why some of the youth players never got on when the game was more or less done. I think that's when you need to manage your youth players. You can bring them in 20 minutes, show them a wee bit of game management, show them what it's like to play for Rangers in a cup tie away from home in bad conditions. But for whatever reason, the managers chose to be professional and just go and get the job done. One thing I need to say about Rangers yesterday is the mentality was spot on, Scott.
Yeah,
absolutely spot
on. Absolutely. Final point in the game, Robert. Obviously, we saw Scott Wright come in and get a goal. He just loves the Scottish Cup, and it's a typical Scott Wright goal.
Listen, he's just getting himself ready for Hampden, isn't he? Boy loves to play at Hampden, so he could have something to contribute. I don't see him as a regular starter, but as we touched on earlier on there, McCausland is going to need to be taken out for a couple of games, so Scott Wright can come in there. If I just can quickly come back on the Ryan Jack thing, don't mind. I think that the conundrum with Ryan Jack and giving him a new contract is this whole homegrown thing. And I know Scott there says go and get Connor Barron, who by all accounts is a tidy footballer, really pleasing on the eye. But if he's not getting a game for Aberdeen, how is he going to get in the Rangers team? That's my question. So it's all about whether the manager can say, right, Bailey Rice next season is going to have a part to play. He can come in and fill one of those slots, or do you give Ryan Jack another 12 months so you've got a homegrown player? It's all about balance there. Certainly, I don't agree that McKay will be an option, because I don't think we'll want to pay the wages. I think Clement will have a remit at the minute to get the wage bill down. I think that's part of the problem. There's too many guys on big money. He's mentioned Kamar Roof there. He's one that's on massive sums of money you're not getting much out of. So I think that'll be part of the remit, get the wage bill down, as well as trying to improve the squad. And whether that scouting network takes us to places like Scandinavia, like we've seen today, then so be it. Right,
we finally have a positive kind of transfer bit of news that could potentially be a real signing. We haven't had one of them since early December. It looks like Rangers are close to signing North Zealand midfielder Mohamed Diomande, Ivory Coast international, I believe, 22 years old. There's a potential, obviously, with this. Scott, I think this is a brilliant, real kind of. I know you were saying here. A lot of people are saying already that's a brilliant bit of business. It's not the fact with Diomande could come in and be. We don't know what type of player he is, but the thing that really impresses me here is it's so much different in terms of the profile of where Rangers are looking at. They're looking at the Scandinavian market. They're looking at a young talent, which Rangers transfer policy in the past, I would say since at least Ross Wilson came in, it's been either we can get this guy fit, or this guy was good once. We've seen he was good 4 or 5 years ago. Let's get him in now. This changes that, and I think this is already a positive statement in the direction Rangers are going with getting players in.
Aye, definitely. I think he's obviously I was speaking to Kai Watson for Rangers Journal earlier on. What Kai tells me about him is he's a kind of mixture between a 10 and an 8.
Mm-hmm.
He's left-footed. He'll play on the left side of centre mid. He's almost like a bit of a box-to-box player. First thing I done when I seen he was signing this morning is I jumped right on the Football Manager and had a look at his stats as you do, and his tackling's like 4. How accurate that is, I don't know. But the rest of him, it looks a really, really good, tidy football player. And obviously, this is a signer. Cobbin and Clermont beginning to have their effect on this team now, by signing players like this. The only worry I've got about dipping into this market is you're trying to unearth quite a few gems, but it can so easily go wrong as quickly as it can be right. I was talking to Kai earlier on about the boy Alexander Lind. I think he plays in the Danish Premier Division, and there's been a lot of hype about him on Twitter because he.
Is this the one that's got fear of flying?
Was that?
Is this the one that's got fear of flying?
Yes. He's overcame it now. There's an article on it. He's overcame his fear of flying. But what Kai was saying to me earlier on is that it's as good as it is that we're delving into these markets. It's the risk is like this boy came out and he scored like 9 goals in 9 games at the beginning of the season, and then he's fell off. So Rangers would need to go and sign him on the hope that he can come in and show his earlier vein of form. He's a really, really good finisher, but he's out of box work. Needs an awful lot of what Kai was saying is with Shankland, Hearts have even played Shankland as a false 9 at times this season, and his link up play and stuff's really, really improved. He's an intelligent football player. So I think as good as this signing is, and I'm approaching it with a wee bit of cautiousness, because it just you can't expect these guys to come in and just hit the ground running, because we've seen it with Cifuentes, for example. The same kind of hype was built in Sifu coming in the summer, and he's not really done it. He came, let's be honest, he's not had a run of matches, he's been picking up injuries, he's been out of form, he's struggling to settle. So as much as I hope this signing works out, there's got to be a degree of protection given to the lad when he signs.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, and I think that's something I've been quite eager to talk about in the past week or so, Robert, is players aren't going to come in and be 9 out of 10 every week. That's not going to happen, but I think this is a problem that some Rangers fans have, is that they expect, just because this is a player that fits the bill, he's going to be the second coming of Michael Essien, and that doesn't happen. It doesn't. And it's the same way a lot of players, like I'm looking at kind of where Rangers are going at in terms of a striker. If a striker doesn't score in these first 2 appearances, there will already be people wanting change, and that is just that's just a big club mentality. But I think it clubs that this guy's only 22-year-old. He needs to come in and be different. And I think already just with the profile, he's going to be that. I think I'm really optimistic. More of the case of that this is not what Rangers do. Rangers don't look at this sort of market. Rangers don't look at looking towards the future. It's always try and get somebody in who you know and have a bit of kind of a relationship with. I like the profile of this, and I'm going to keep saying that. The guy might turn out to be either the best player Rangers have ever had or might be a flop. But right now, in terms of where we're at, I think this is exactly where Rangers need to go down.
Listen, just on Nottingham as a club, they've got a fantastic player trading model. If you look at the amount of net profit they've made from turning players around, it's absolutely incredible the last 2-3 years, especially African players as well. This guy, I didn't look at Football Manager. I had a wee snippet on YouTube, and obviously you got to be really a bit of trepidation when you're watching these clips. But what I can say is, in everything he does, he looks sharp. He looks really positive. Scott there saying he's got a 4 for tackler on Football Manager. Well, there's a couple of good recoveries in this week compilation, Scott. So I'd put him up to a 5 or a 6 maybe. But just to come back to the serious point of the support and the expectation, that's not going to go away. You're not going to get rid of that as much as you want to. If you are, we're 0-0 after 15 minutes on Wednesday night, there'll be moans and groans. Whether it's Diamande's in the field or not, that's just the way it is at Ibrox. You're not going to change that. I can't see that. So it's up to maybe the manager to think, well, look, I've got Raskin, I've got Lundstrom, I've got Cifuentes. I can maybe ease this guy in a little bit more gently, depending on how results and performances are going. But certainly, he looks someone that's positive. I've been saying for a long, long time, the way to go and win the Scottish Premiership is you've got to play with a tempo, and he looks like he can fit into that mould. Everything I saw he was doing was quick. There was no sort of sideways passing. It was quick feet, trying to play forward, either running with the ball or a forward pass, which can only be good for us as supporters watching that. So it's hard not to run away with it, isn't it? Because you're seeing the profile. 22 is Lovejoy Soccer. I used to say a great age. So he'll come in, you maybe get 2 or 3 seasons out of him, and hopefully then move him on for lots and lots of money. So that's what we've got to be doing. We've not done it enough. Whether that's hanging on to players that we mentioned at the start of the pod, like Morelos and Kent, due to sentiment, Borna Barisic has been held onto for too long. You've got to just come in, make them better, get some out of them in terms of trophies back for ourselves, and then move them on and get somebody else in. We've done it before with even better players. Your Gascoignes, your Laudrups, they were moved on, and we moved on for them. So hopefully Diamande's the next one to come in. But you've got to be, as I say, careful, because look at Cifuentes. We were told he was going to take us to the next level, and we've just not seen enough from him. So as I say, you can't help but excited. It's a new name coming into the football club, and I'm sure he'll be excited at the move. But he's got to hit the ground running this football club, because you don't get afforded that time.
No, you don't. And I think, Scott, that's something, Robert's touching something interesting there. The player trading model since Rangers has been up, really, with the exception. Patterson was obviously up and coming, exciting talent. Bassey was up. With the exception of Patterson, Bassey and Aribo, the player trading model at Rangers has been an absolute shambles. Because, as Robert says, you either hold on to players too long or sell too early. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of players. And there's a thing as well, and I've noticed it, and we've been discussing it this season. See the amount of targets that you've heard Rangers having rumours about that have went on and been sensational. Morgan Whittaker, the boy Dalinga. Like, these are wee players. Like, do you know what I mean? They're players that might not have been concrete interest, but you're wondering, there must have been something if their names are getting mentioned. They go on and be next level, but Rangers are going down the route of, let's get this guy in who was good 4 years ago in a youth game. That's the Rangers model, and that's to get away from that. This shows to me that this is a sign, and I think Clement and Coppin, Clement especially, I think, has been honest in saying the way this club's been run over the past couple of years, at least, has been a shambles.
Aye, 100%. Giving Bailey keys to the kingdom, it's almost well and truly coming back to bite, isn't it? Like you say, the likes of your Sam Lammers and stuff that have come in, it's just not worked. It's simply it's the weight of the jersey that I think has got these guys mostly. We don't know if Morgan Whittaker was going to be sensational if he signed this time last year, because it's completely different doing it for Plymouth in the Championship.
Yeah, of course.
And doing it for Rangers here.
Yeah.
So for me, there's always an element of a risk with anybody that comes in the door. So, where was I going with this again? Aye. So, I mean, you're looking at Sam Lammers went to Utrecht, and I think he got an assist against PSV today. And the Utrecht fans want him signed up. Aye, they want him signed. They can have him as well as I'm
good. Brilliant, sign him, take him back.
But does that not lead to another thing as well? Does that not lead to another thing as well, though? And I'm not saying Sam Lammers is not the answer, and I know that Sam Lammers would be quite happy to see the back of him. But already 2 games in, it looks like Utrecht are getting something out of him. What does that say about Rangers?
They're playing him as a number 9.
Yeah,
they're playing him in his position.
But why did Beale sign? What did Beale sign him for? That to me will forever be the question. What was the purpose of that signing?
See, the bit that kind of that annoys me most about it is Beale's used the club's money to go and meet these players and look them in the eye, as the old cliche goes, and he believed that they could come and play for Rangers now. Sam Lammers came and shrank into the jersey, he didn't fit it. Like, he just, as soon as it was put on him, he's immediately just went into a shell. So, get back to the point of why we were run badly. We were run badly because we gave Michael Bailey freedom to go and do whatever he wanted.
Longer than that, though. It's longer than that because
Scott, I would have to say that you go back to Stuart Robertson saying that there was going to be this wonderful player trading model and we were going to start turning revenue, and he's been responsible with Ross Wilson as well for as you say, the Morelos no going to wherever it was, Lille, whatever, paying $7 million for Ryan Kent, then letting him walk away for nothing. No cash in on Glenn Kamara when you could have, when his stock was high. Borna Barisic probably had interest 2 or 3 seasons ago as well. When his stock was high. So we've held on to players for too long for sentiment, I feel personally, and not got rid of them. And you look at the other side of the city, and they bring players in, they turn them over. Jota, hundreds, millions of pounds, and we need to be doing that more often. Are they also going to fall further and further behind? And we can see it in this window. We're already scratching around, looking for fees to try and get players in. Where is the money going from this? The Europa League run and the Champions League money, because we didn't, if rumours are to believe, then you believe Michael Beale, in the summer all the money was like a net spend of like £1 million or something. We moved players out, moved players in, and it sort of balanced itself up. Something's not adding up in terms of the financials, whether that's been pumped into New Edmondson House and things like that is another thing. But for me personally, I want to see players on the park. I want to see us lifting trophies, and winning the League Cup was addictive. You want to carry that on, that momentum. We've not historically been very, very good after winter breaks. And I'm really hoping that changes on Wednesday and they come back and play with a bit of zip, a bit of guile, and go and get the job done. And we need to start sort of clawing these points back and really make a fist of it.
Right, let's move on to Hibs on Wednesday. We're back in league action. Robert, you've brought back some memories about how bad Rangers are after a winter break. Scott, this is a game in hand. This is a massive opportunity to claw the points back and make it a title race. I think the team's going to be very interesting how it lines up. I think, with the exception of Goldson for Balogun, I think, and obviously Butland, I think it'll be mostly the same.
Aye, definitely. I would go with that. I wouldn't be surprised to see if you see Silva starting at the left.
Possibly as well, yeah.
I reckon. I don't think you're going to see Matondo get a run of games. We're paying Silva's wages for a reason, so I think it'll be him, Dessers, and McCausland. Up front, roughly same in midfield with Raskin and Lundstrom. With Raskin getting a bit further forward, and then probably, as we say, with Balogun, Suter, Tav, and Yilmaz at the back.
Yeah, I think we'll see.
We need to get 3 points. We just need to start calling the league back and start. Celtic have need sustained pressure in how many years? So this is our chance to actually up the ante on them now. Yeah,
Robert, I think it is a big chance. I think it's obviously try to get a point. I think Hibs will be Montgomery's been of the mindset. And fair play to him. He's of the mindset. I'm going to play my way no matter what, no matter who it's against. I think that will suit Rangers. I think that's a big opportunity for Rangers, and as you say, it is all depending on how balanced the lineup is. Can the defence hold it together? And I'm confident that they can get a result, actually.
Listen, it's strange because sees we were going to sort of Christmas week in the Ross County game, my confidence was sky high. I thought, we'll blitz Ross County, we'll go into Parkhead, we'll do them as well, and we'll have a really happy new year. And it's not quite played out that way. So here we are, having watched that game in La Manga, and then obviously the Copenhagen sort of second half, which I think you can maybe put down to there was a lot of changes made in that game. At one point there was a back five I don't think we'll ever see again in our lives. So Hibs had a tricky afternoon by all accounts yesterday. I think they sort of squeezed through 1-0, was it, up at Forfar? So it wasn't great there. They are maybe a different animal at home. I do think he's, Montgomery again, similar to Clermont, he's not got his own players in there. However, he has made certain players better. I think the boy Tavares, he seemed to get a tune out of, but Rangers need to go there and, as I say, play with a tempo, play quick. I don't know if we will see Silva off the line. The comments after the game was sort of talking about his lack of minutes at Wolves and maybe sort of building him up. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But it's you know yourself, when you're chasing, you can't slip up. You've got to keep the pressure up, and you've got to just keep winning games. And now we're going to sort of the second half of the season. It's all about carrying on momentum. Can you build on it and not slip up? Celtic gave us a couple of sort of green lights, if you want to call them that, in the first half of the season, opportunities to go and put pressure on. We went to Pittodrie and couldn't quite do it. So just need to focus on ourselves, win these games in hand. If we can get it to 2 points, it makes it really, really interesting getting at these Old Firm games.
Yep, absolutely. So final points. Let's get a score prediction. I'm going to go for 3-1 Rangers. Scott, what's your prediction?
2-0, another clean sheet in the bag.
Very good. Robert?
I was going to say 2-0, but I can't do that now. He's just went 2-0, so I'll say 3-0 because I do think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think Dessers will score again, to be honest.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. But we're going to wrap up the show there, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. As always, we'll be back on Wednesday night. We'll do a post-match reaction video of the Hibs game. So, first of all, to Scott, thank you very much.
No bother, Scott. Thanks for having me on, pal.
Pleasure, mate. And to Robert Clark, thank you very much, mate.
Anytime, mate. Cheers.
Thanks very much, guys. See you soon.